Okay, so does fat make you fat? Now, we're going to talk about this today because a lot of us grew up with this idea that low fat is actually ideal, but eating fat does not make you fat. So when we start talking about does fat make you fat, let's talk about body fat and let's talk about fat from food. So first thing we're going to talk about is body fat, okay? When it comes to body fat, when you're someone is trying to cut your body fat and you want to cut it down and be really lean, so you're like, your muscles are just popping, you got the six pack and your muscles just, the serrations in your muscles, you can see them. There's some health complications with that. Now, at the end of the day, when you start looking at body fat, we have to understand that your body actually needs body fat. It actually needs fat to be healthy, for your body to be able to function the way it's supposed to in a healthy, normal way. But when you start thinking about this, we look at these guys that, these bodybuilders, and there's a study back in 2013 where they took a competitive bodybuilder who was cutting from 14.5% body fat down to 4.5% body fat. Now, what they noticed is that his health really started to suffer. His testosterone dropped, which we don't want. A lot of other complications started to happen. Just cutting your body fat low like that, there's a lot of other trade-offs where just socially it just sucks. But the bottom line is like, that's what it comes down to. But when we look at our body fat, on the other side of it, having too much body fat is unhealthy, meaning for a man, having more than 20% body fat is considered unhealthy. And for a woman, it's over 30%. So if you're someone who is over 20% as a man or 30% as a woman, that's actually considered unhealthy instead of just looking at your weight. Yes, it is important to understand how much you weigh, but it's more important to understand how much body fat you have so you can focus on doing the right things to reduce it. I've had people come to me all the time where, I have a guy, he's like, 6'1", 6 foot, and he's, 185, 190 pounds. Well, then when we come back to it, look at it, he's 25, 28, 29% body fat, which is really considered unhealthy. When we start really looking at it, this is something you have to focus on, especially if you're on a weight loss journey. For women, it's the same thing. Like, it's really looking at your body composition. And that's one of those things, like, I won't get into it, but the bottom line is if you're someone that's just gonna like lose weight, jump on the cardio machine and you're just gonna run, all you're doing is killing your muscle and you're not really looking at your body fat. Now, will you lose some body fat? Yeah, okay, it's cool, but let's move on. So when we start talking about fat from food, now we're talking about 4 different fats. So you got your mono unsaturated fats, your poly unsaturated fats, saturated fats, and trans fats. Now, when you start looking at those, it's like, which one is the one that you got to stay away from? And it's trans fats. And those fats are found mostly in processed foods, those ultra processed foods, which are going to be the most unhealthy. Now, the sneaky thing about this is that a lot of these companies that manufacture these foods, they'll also put in their description so you can buy it, it says low fat, right? And it's a trick because what we're really looking at is the culprit for fat is sugar. And so when you start to really look at this, and if you haven't, like, take out something if you have in your house or go to the grocery store the next time you go and look up those low fat products. What they're doing is that it will say low fat, but if you go check on the sugar side, they're pumping that thing to make up for the sugar. But trans fats are fats that are manufactured. These are fats that are not good for you whatsoever. There's no dietary benefits from it. You're not getting anything else but the fats, and it's normally not recognized by your body, so it doesn't digest it, and so that turns into fat, by the way. So we start looking at fat and we start really wondering what makes us fat. 2 things. One is overeating, and number 2 is sugar. Now, sugar is a huge component of making you fat. Now, people will talk about carbs, right, in form of sugar, because once you've digested your carbs, if they're potatoes, pasta, white bread, stuff like that, those things digest really fast. They turn into sugar, they turn into glycogen, and if they're not used, then they store as fat. So those one of those things that you have to really pay attention to. And this is one of those things that I coach because I want to teach people how to speed their metabolism up and use food at the times that it supports your goals so you can actually complement the activities that you're doing to reach your goals. So with that being said, sugar is actually one of the biggest things that you have to focus on. And that could be sugar from like these sodas, these things you get at Starbucks, all this stuff that has sugar in it. Now, when I say that, I'm also talking about stuff like when you're like, oh, well, should I eat fruits? Well, to be honest with you, there's some fruits that have a high sugar index. And there's some fruits that have lower index. So like your berries and your strawberries, your blueberries, those type of things, right? Bananas, they're high in sugar, right? Apple, low in sugar. So you can get these things. And the best part about this is that, when you start really looking at food, the first thing you want to do is like choose a whole food. And then the other thing you want to do is look at the sugar content, because if you're eating a ton of things that have a lot of sugar in it, they're going to lead to you being fat, especially if it's not being used as energy. One thing I want to tell you, so like when you come to that day and you're like, hey, I want to make me a smoothie, right? And you go and grab you some bananas and some strawberries, right? Some blueberries. I don't know what else you would put in there. You maybe throw some whole milk or some almond milk or some oat milk like I used, and then you go ahead and blend you up this thing, right? You maybe put some protein powder in there too, right? So you can have a protein shake and you mix it up. Or you just made like the same thing, like a Sprite or a Coke, like it's gonna have the same amount of sugar in it. So what you really wanna do in those situations is lose the berries, right? So the strawberries, the blueberries, but then get to a place where you're only using maybe, you know, one fruit and then putting the rest as greens, making sure you have, you know, plant-based milk is pretty good too. You can use, you know, regular dairy, which I'm against, but the bottom line is just making sure you're choosing healthier things. So to get back on track and to just help you understand, does fat make you fat? You know, one of the things I would want to take away from this is that when you start really looking at what we're talking about in terms of fat, eating too much food, right? Having a surplus of calories really causes overweight. And a lot of people that have come to me and they're asking me like, hey, what are the things I need to do? Or what can you give me some tips on how to lose weight and to get rid of some of this fat? You know, one of the first things I say is like, well, how many times do you eat a day? Right? And I talk to a lot of people and they'll tell me like, oh, you know, like I eat 3 meals a day. But if I really talk to them to track their food, they're only eating like 2 times a day, right? And what happens with that is you're either eating 2 really big meals, maybe 1 small meal and 1 huge meal to try to make up for all the lack of food, or you're just not eating enough food at all. And so when we start talking about what makes you fat, you know, getting your body into a state where it's not expecting food will make you fat. Not eating food or eating enough food to support your goals or even to support your normal state of day is going to make you fat, because our bodies are designed for that. You know, that survival mechanism, that whole idea of like your body shutting down and storing food, you know, like think about this, guys, like, you know, thousands of years ago, we couldn't just walk into a grocery store and go buy some food. But the funny thing is like our bodies haven't changed. The way that our body is designed has not changed. So if you're not eating, which is one of the number one things that I get my clients to do is to eat. You're not eating, your body is storing all the stuff you're using as energy or they're storing it as storage, right? For survival, because the fact you're not eating. But when you get into a position where you start to eat and you have a healthy balance of breakfast, lunch, and dinner and those snacks in between, it's very important that you understand that what you eat is actually going to help your body have the energy it needs to operate, right? You know, when you start thinking about what should you do so that you can get rid of fat, right? The first thing I'm going to tell you is eat, right? Second thing I'm going to tell you is not going to run and do cardio, right? What I'm going to tell you to do is lift some weights. But this is the reason why. It's not because like, oh, building muscle weighs more than fat. Now, if you really think about it, like a pound of anything is a pound of anything, right? So if you got a pound of fat and you got a pound of muscle, they weigh the same thing. Does it look different? Absolutely. And muscle takes up less space. And so I get where people say maybe it's less of muscle weighs more, but it's still the same thing. Okay. So when we're talking about like, what do we need to do? Getting ourselves to like burn the most amount of fat. I'm going to tell you this. The reason why I tell you to lift weights is because when you look at where do you burn the most calories, I ask the question all the time. I say, hey, so if you're doing cardio or you're lifting weights, or you're just chilling for the day, right? You're just hanging out. Maybe you're just working, you're doing your normal everyday thing. Where do you burn the most calories? And most people say, oh, if I do cardio. And this people say, oh, if I lift, but it's over time because you have this, 24-hour or 48-hour afterburn, right? After you've worked out, your body is trying to repair itself, which is right. But when I ask this question, most people never pick the fact is when you actually are sitting and you're doing your normal activity. To be honest with you, you only are burning calories while you're doing cardio, but once you stop doing cardio, you're not burning calories anymore. Now, it is important to lift weights, right? And lift weights, you are going to have this afterburn effect where your body is still burning calories to repair itself and do all this. One thing that you have to understand is that once you build the muscle and your body's trying to repair and you're constantly doing this, your sedentary day where your body is going through the normal activities, you're increasing your calorie burn or what your body needs to burn or use as energy because you're increasing your muscle mass. And so when you really start to look at it, you actually start burning more calories during your rest time than you are doing your activity time. Now, if you're tracking your calories with like Apple or whatever, Whoop, whatever you're using, you can really look at the fact that your activity levels only give you so much calorie burn throughout the rest of the day. Your body, for its normal function, for it to repair, for all the things that it's doing to recover, that's what's actually helping you burn more calories. So the idea is that you want to do things that are going to allow you during rest time to increase your calorie burn or expenditure, and that's going to help you in a huge way. So the one thing I can tell you is that if you're walking into a gym and you're like, hey, like I want to get in better shape, which means you want to lose body fat and your muscles look leaner and tone, have some abs if that's a goal of yours, but you just want to be more comfortable in your clothes, focus on doing activities that are going to help you lose body fat. So to wrap up this video, the most important thing I want to tell you is looking at, does fat make you fat? Understand that it isn't fat that makes you fat. It's overeating, it's sugar, and it's not understanding how processed foods really hurt you because of the trans fats. And when they try to trick you with this low fat stuff, how they're pumping in sugar into these things to make up for it, right? So understanding a couple things I think are important to have you make sure that you know what to do is make sure that when it comes to eating food that you're picking whole foods, and you're going to pick foods that are going to be, in terms of like protein, lean, right? So you want to get away from those fatty meats like those ribeyes and New York steak strips and stuff like that. Then the other thing is that, and you want to just make sure you're eating lean proteins like chicken, turkey, fish, those type of things, right? When it comes to your carbs, like you want to stay away from all those processed carbs, white rice, white bread, all those things that don't have that color, and get you to your complex carbs, which is going to be your sweet potatoes, your brown rice, your quinoa, your whole grain foods that are actually going to take longer for it to digest because they're more complex. And then making sure you're eating healthy fats, getting your avocados, cooking with your coconut oil. I use avocado oil because it just tastes great. So you want one, that's one to go do that because it tastes amazing. But with that being said, really understanding how you can really cut your body fat and focusing on that. So if your goal right now is to lose weight, focus on weight from body fat. Go get a body composition test so that you know what your body fat is. Because if you just lose weight and you're like, oh my God, like I just lost 20 pounds. Well, you probably lost 20 pounds of muscle. Maybe you lost some body fat within that. But if you really want to focus on it, the really big thing is, and remember this is key to it, right? Is that once you start to build muscle and your muscle starts to go up, your body takes more calories in order for it to burn, which also means that if you're eating and not skipping meals and you're eating, like I told you, 5 times a day, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 2 snacks in between, your body knows it's actually getting food. So it starts to get out of that starvation mode, out of that survival mode where it's storing the fat or storing the food as fat. And it allows you to start shuttling in this food, which is calories, for energy. And when it's all said and done, now your body is getting the food that it needs. Your body is starting to change, and your body is starting to change the composition by having lower body fat, even though you're eating fat, and increasing your body mass and your muscle mass. So that's the goal, right? And we all want to make sure that we are healthy. We all want to make sure we're doing all the right things. So I hope this video helped you. If you haven't so far, and I hope you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be working through giving you guys, the direct answers to, what really helps you. And really, when you ask me today, you say, hey, does fat make you fat? And it doesn't. Really, the focus is making sure that you're not getting too much sugar in your system, too much sugar in your diet, and understanding that picking the right foods, the whole foods, and eating enough will allow your body to get out of that starvation mode so that you can go out there and be the boss, right? Go look good, feel good, be healthy, right? So with that being said, thank you guys for watching this video. If you like this video, please subscribe. If there's some comments, give me some feedback. I want to be able to make sure that I don't over talk your head with scientific things and a bunch of stuff that is going to just, not be what you're looking for. I want to get you the direct answer so you just know, hey, does this hurt me? Does this help me? What do I need to do? That's the answers I have for you. But otherwise, you guys check me out later. I'm going to be posting some more videos, and I hope you like this. And as I grow this channel and continue to build, I hope that I can continue educating you, provoking you to do great things for yourself, helping you be the boss and leading your life the way you should, so you can live the way you want, so you can do the things you want to do. So peace. I appreciate you guys. You guys have a great time, and I'll see you next time. Let's go. Peace.